Okay, let's get right to our questions for this week. Kevin asked, Coach said that Ben is the starter, knows the offense and can help the young guys. Offense seemed real slow in getting the plays in and started. What are your thoughts on why they can't speed it up? You know, some of it is confusion on the sidelines. That needs to get better as we get farther into the season, but there are also a lot of young guys on the field. If you watched Ben Hicks, you saw a lot of the frustration in his body language, and that's why he's out there, to make sure that everybody's where they're supposed to be. So don't call for the snap until it's right, and when you do that, that slows things down. Okay, Big Daddy wants to know, Mike, I believe this is the most critical year in Razorback history. What do you think happens to the football program if they have another bad year, that is less than 5 wins? Could they ever really dig out of that hole? You know, I believe Chad Morris has 3 years minimum. After that, if the program is going nowhere, you go out and find another coach. Yes, the program will get out of this hole. There is some coach out there that can make it happen if it's not Morris. There are too many resources and positives about Arkansas for it not to happen. Okay, LZH asked, why didn't we try to take more shots down the field? You know, I think it was a combination of things. Hicks did go deep some, and he was off target. And in some cases, the receivers weren't open. Plus, there were some instances where Trey Knox and Traylon Burks were wide open, and Hicks didn't see them, or he took off to avoid pressure and had to look for a check down receiver. You know, a lot of fans are speculating that Starko would have taken better advantage of those opportunities, so the quarterback controversy continues. Hawkeye Blind asked, do you think Morris truly believed the coach speak during camp about the improvements? Why can't we run this offense? Where is the left lane hammer down? What I see is turning lane in neutral. Okay, that's a good one. Most coaches play up the positives in the preseason. Tight end was a problem on Saturday with Cheyenne O'Grady out. Somebody else needed to step up. Chase Harrell did a good job blocking, but he didn't catch the ball well. I think O'Grady will help this offense against Ole Miss if he's available, but look, they need more than him. The O-line is a big stumbling block right now. The wide receivers are inexperienced. They've got 55 guys out of the 85 that are underclassmen. Until that flips and you get all those guys as upperclassmen, I don't think you're going to see a lot of hammer down. So we'll see if that happens in a year or two. Oklahoma observes a very shallow participation chart from my perspective. Care to speculate on the relatively small number of offensive players who played yesterday? Is it more about getting the best 11 and the obligatory skill position backups on comfort together? You know, they want to develop depth, and that means playing a lot of guys. A game like Saturday, theoretically, is where you get up big early and play your backups and freshmen, but we know that didn't happen. So there are 3 more non-conference games. We'll see in those games if they can get ahead early to the point where they can play more people in those games. Okay, Sivad wants to know, do you think Morris was smart to so defiantly say, I am not going to apologize after the game? Hey, look, he looked stressed to me. Clearly, he understood he was going to take a lot of heat for a lack of productivity by the offense. He probably should have left the word apologize out of it. Could have simply used that old coaching phrase, a win is a win. We made a lot of mistakes, but we won tonight, and there were a lot of coaches across the country that can't say that. Look, Morris is still learning this press conference thing. He's got this young man, S.J. Tui, who follows him around. He's kind of a personal assistant, takes notes in the press conferences. I can only assume that after a press conference, they discuss Morris's answers and maybe discuss how he could have answered something better. It's like anything else, you know, and working a press conference and being the subject of a press conference is not something a coach learns as a part of being a coach. It's only after you become the head coach that you have to do that. And it's like anything else. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. So we'll see if Morris progresses on these press conferences. Okay, Mike, what Razorback teams have started with disappointing wins against below average small conference or FCS teams and yet still had successful seasons? And that is a good question. And I can tell you, it hasn't happened often. In fact, only one game that sort of fits that bill has happened in my time covering Arkansas. It was that 16-12 loss to Toledo in Little Rock under Brett Bielema. Arkansas did bounce back from that loss to go 8-5 with a Liberty Bowl win over Kansas State, but mostly losing or struggling in games like Saturday has been an early indicator of a bad season. Now, Port Twain wants to know how much stock do you put in the Hunter Yurachek did not hire Morris talk? You know, technically he didn't hire Morris, and he did make a joke about it in a press conference a while back. But I've seen nothing to indicate that Yurachek is sort of trying to separate himself from that hire, which incidentally was made by Julia Peoples before Yurachek was hired. As I've already indicated, I believe Morris gets 3 years minimum. So I don't think the fact that Yurachek didn't hire him will be a factor either way. Basically, if Morris turns the program around, he stays, and if he doesn't, he won't. Pig Bacon asked, with your experience covering Razorback football, obviously the economics and landscape of college athletics has changed over this time, do any coaches come to mind that maybe did not get a fair shot at Arkansas to turn the program around? I've always believed that Jack Crow should not have been fired after one game in the '92 season. Okay, look, losing to the Citadel was really bad. But what was accomplished by removing Crow after that game? Arkansas still went on to win 3 games that year. Joe Kynes, a good coach and a terrific man, I watched this. He wore himself out trying to be the defensive coordinator and the interim head coach. As the athletic director, you let the season play out. If it continues to go downhill, you spend that time looking for the right replacement so you can make a change as soon as possible after the season is over. Now, Frank Broyles did a lot of good things at Arkansas, but that was one of his mistakes. Maggie Sue wants to know, Mike, before you got to Fayetteville, perhaps, but what do you know about the Kalends Duckworth incident and the actions that led to these suspensions, at least as much as you can share? Well, that actually happened in the 3rd season after I got here, so I was here, and it involved Ben Cowens, Donnie Bobo, and Michael Forrest. Bobby Duckworth was not involved. It was called at the time a, quote, dorm incident. In the media, it was hard for us to be any more specific than that because basically a young lady said one thing happened to her in the athletic dorm with those players, and the players said something completely different. So without other witnesses, it was impossible to prove what she alleged. But Arkansas head coach Lou Holtz stepped in with what he called the do right rule, basically telling the players, regardless of what happened, you guys didn't do the right thing, so you are suspended for the Orange Bowl game. Now, Arkansas was already a big underdog to number 2 Oklahoma in that game, and without 3 of its best offensive players, the Hogs were given no chance to win. But in one of the biggest upsets in bowl history, Arkansas not only won that game, they blew the doors off the Sooners to finish the season at 11-1, second best record in school history, and Holtz went on to become a media sensation with that do-right rule. Okay, Go Hogs ask, why did it look like Portland State's starting quarterback was superior to anything we have on our roster? Probably because you're mad about the game, so you're greatly exaggerating. Davis Alexander completed 47% of his passes for 81 yards. He threw 2 interceptions, he ran for 28 net yards, and he was sacked 6 times, and his team failed to score a touchdown while he was in the game. That's a great performance. On the other hand, Ben Hicks passed for 143 yards with no interceptions, and Arkansas scored twice while he was on the field. Now look, Hicks didn't set the world on fire, but by any objective measure, you'd have to conclude he had a better game than Alexander. Okay, time for me to answer another one of my own questions for me. Mike, why did Arkansas struggle to move the ball against a team like Portland State? Okay, first things first. This early in the season, you may not want to hear this, but this early in the season, there's no way to know how good or bad Portland State is. They could end up being one of the best FCS teams in the country, or they could struggle in their own conference. What I do know is that they served up the right defense to cause Arkansas problems. Their shifting 4- and 5-man fronts featured movement designed to cause blocking issues, which helped in stopping the run and harassing Ben Hicks. Again, I've already said this, what Hicks really needed was an effective tight end that he could get the ball quickly to counteract the quick pressure he was looking at. Now this offense really missed Cheyenne O'Grady. Chase Harrell had too many drops. We've been hearing a lot about depth at tight end. I didn't necessarily see that, at least not on the passing end of that on Saturday. Hopefully O'Grady will be back this week for Ole Miss. Okay, this reminder, if you want to ask me a question, go to hogville.net. Sign up if you're not already a member. It's totally free. They've got one of the best message boards in college sports. Go to the Ask Mike forum and post your question. I can't answer every question, but if you ask me a good one, I'll include it. And that wraps up another Q&A session, which we call Ask Mike. And I'll see you here again next Monday when hopefully we'll be discussing Chad Morris's first SEC win.